This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
We will be entertaining a different conversation, and that's a current program that is going on in the United States of America, and it is called the FII 9 Initiative. So before then, let me quickly read out that information. Riyadh is hosting the 9th Future Investment Initiative, where over 600 speakers and 20 world leaders are engaging in high-level discussions on sustainable growth and global prosperity, running from October 27th to 30th, which means today is the last day. The event is themed "The Key to Prosperity: Unlocking New Frontiers of Growth." It was organized by the FII Institute. The summit tackles urgent global issues and such as climate change, inequality, and disruptive technology. Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, called on participants to use their influence and capital to drive inclusive and sustainable solutions. Major partnerships were unveiled involving firms like Guggenheim Investment, Barclays, and Saudi Electricity Company, which deals are focused on clean energy, innovation, and responsible investment, with over $250 billion in deals facilitated since inception. The FII continues to position itself as a key global platform, advancing not just capital growth, but human development and long-term prosperity. Joining us to have that conversation, Benga, I hope you can hear me clearly. So we have another guest who is joining us from the United States to give us an update on this FII 9 Initiative Summit. And his name is Patrick Basham. He's the director of the Democracy Institute. Patrick Basham, good morning to you. Welcome. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Great to be with you. My pleasure. Great to be with you.
Great. Thank you very much. Today is the final day of the FII 9 engagement in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Could you bring us to speed on some of the happenings, some of the critical happenings that influence from this particular summit that have a direct or indirect connection with Africa and most especially Nigeria with regards to energy?
Sure. Well, the FII has become over these 9 years the #1 investment event in the world, so much so that there are a lot of policymakers, heads of government, heads of state here. This is where all of the top investors and innovators are. And that suggests that AI is going to have a major role in a conference such as this, which it does. So many of the speakers, so many of the sessions, so many of the topics explicitly about AI and how it cannot drive. Well, we know it's the future, but just will it or will not drive, positive growth, positive cultural development or not. But specifically in terms of Africa, the FAI has put out a report specifically on African youth, the potential for improvements in work, jobs, employment in the context of the AI revolution, and specifically looking at especially sub-Saharan Africa, whether AI and other technologies are in a position, will be in a position, can be leveraged by Africans to and allow sub-Saharan Africa in particular kind of leapfrog ahead and be a way of kind of catching up, you might say, maybe even getting ahead of certain parts of the rest of the world in order to develop the country's potential more fully. There's also been AI being part of the discussion about how to get more investment into Africa. And just yesterday, the Nigerian Minister of Investment, Senator Eno, I believe I may be mispronouncing his name, apologize if I am, the investment minister appeared, and it was an opportunity for him to sell Nigeria as an investment destination. And unfortunately, he blew it, in my opinion, because the lady from CNBC asked him, why would people invest in Nigeria? And he said a lot of necessary things about competitiveness and trade and things like that, but it wasn't in a position to package that argument in an attractive way to sort of put a stamp on it and branding Nigerian brand to say this is what makes us different, this is what makes us better. I mean, obviously, some work could be done there, but the world's attention through a conference like FII is very much on Africa, much more than it was just a few years ago. It's great concern and interest in Africa, both from a let's say humanitarian perspective, but also from an investment profit-making perspective. And I think that a combination of the wise application of technology and better marketing on the part of African governments themselves, including the Nigerian government, we could see some of more of that foreign investment money come to Africa, come to the likes of Nigeria, and start to sort of work its magic over the coming years.
Great. Thank you very much. Now, I have more interest in the AI that you talked about. I see that you focused more on AI, and of course, indeed, Nigeria and Africa will need that to thrive. Recently, in Nigeria, I'm going to take you back to energy. Recently, the Minister of Power has been talking about recapitalization in the power industry, in energy here in Nigeria, because it needed to expand the financial capacity of the transmission companies and distribution companies so that they have the capital base and the robust capital requirement to be able to, facilitate investment. Whilst we're looking at AI and all the beauties in there, in what way do you think we can make a connection with that in Nigeria so that we can have something that will attend to the industrial needs of not only Nigeria, but Africa in its base? Or probably some of the conversation there that make references not only to clean energy, but also to the conventional domestic capacity that Africa has, Nigeria has, which should be explored for the parties, for both parties, the FII-9 initiative, and of course, for Africa and Nigeria.
You raised an extremely good question, extremely important question. And I think that energy power is part of certainly attractive, but hypothetically, it's attractive from an external investor perspective, right? Energy, sources of energy, physical infrastructure, all of these sort of fundamental elements of what makes an economy go, and particularly makes an economy go faster and further, right? But the question from what an investor's perspective is not whether, in a resource sense, that it's potentially there. They recognize that it is in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa. It's whether the challenges as a foreign investor overwhelm that physical potential. By that I mean that whether it's tax or regulation, or the legal system, the judicial system, whether it's political corruption, these are all elements that foreign investors take into account, which depending on the country, and I'm not saying these all apply to Nigeria, depending on the country, these are things that can be red flags, right? And of course, the flip side of that, that's the bad news. The good news is that if an African country has its governance in pretty good shape, the judicial system is fairly transparent, if property rights are respected, if taxes are reasonable, if regulation is light, it's not wrapping up, suffocating businesses in red tape, then the reality that power, energy, potential that you described, that reality can become a reality. The hypothetical can become a reality. But it's a case-by-case situation, a country-by-case, nation-by-nation judgment part of a foreign investor. But on paper, on principle, there's no reason why power, green energy cannot be a major force for good domestically in a country like Nigeria, and also a source of profit for foreign investors. So there's the potential for a win-win. We've got to look at the devils in the details, as it always is.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Patrick, I have two colleagues here who are with me on the program. One is joining virtually and one is here with me in the studio. They would like to ask you a few questions with regards to the program currently ongoing in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Yes, Swift.
Mr. Patrick, good morning. So my first question I want to ask you is, looking at from the perspective of an investor, what are the three things you would advise any foreign investor that is watching to invest in Nigeria? Then I also want to ask you, for people who want to participate, because there were some people who would have loved to participate in this conference, but they were unable to. How do they get to participate for the next one?
So you're asking about what I advise an investor when they were looking at Nigeria?
Yes, yes.
Question. Um, well, it's going to depend on what their sector preference is. Maybe they don't have one, but I would break it into three things. One, it would be the non-made in Africa side of it, or should I say the made in America side of it. That is what is happening, what has happened, what is happening, what's going to happen, what can we project about tariffs on the American side, right? This is now the elephant in the room. This is the new thing to come along that could be potentially very damaging, may not be. We don't know yet. It depends on the country. It depends on when things calm down on the American side, and we know exactly where things stand. So there's some hesitancy on the American side when it comes to investing in a country like Nigeria because of the tariffs, and in other African countries. The second areas I would break into legal and to economic. As I was touching on, situation in Nigeria, how does it compare with its neighbors, regional competitors in terms of protection of property rights, perspectives on rule of law, how transparent is the judicial system, right? And then economically, financially, what's the tax structure? What's the regulatory regime? These are things that are going to really matter to investors. They're going to this is what they look at, this is what they make the decisions based upon. So, given all of the natural physical advantages that Nigeria has, including in human resources, there's much to attract, much to recommend to foreign investors. But they're going to need to dot the I's and cross the T's and do their due diligence on these specific aspects of running the business, investing in the business in Nigeria before taking that leap, or at least they should. And the second question, FII is not an inexpensive thing to be a part of, but it is live streamed. And so those who want to, so popular now, and so much demand, it is live streamed on YouTube and elsewhere. There's an FII TV network that broadcasts interviews with speakers after they come off the stage over the course of 3 days. So, what in archive form, anyone who's really interested can literally watch all 3 days programming, or they can watch specific they're interested in. It's pretty accessible, which is one of the things that makes it unique, considering the high level of attendees. It's not a top-down operation. It's pretty interactive, pretty democratic, but as democratic as one of these operations.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now, Benga, do you have any questions for Mr. Patrick Basham?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Patrick, for your analysis. And your analysis speaks to what the Nigerian government in this current administration has been doing in clearing up the image and, of course, draining the swamp in the institution to ensure that our tax laws and all the red tapes that are discouraging business are removed. But you said something earlier on that I wanted to elaborate upon, which is that you spoke to our Minister for Investment that though she spoke well, but she would have sold Nigeria better because for real, Nigeria is making a lot of giant strides right at the moment in terms of clearing up a lot of bad images. You know, you spoke about judiciary, you spoke about respect for property rights, you spoke also about our tax law, all of which the current administration is doing well in clearing the previous image we had about. But unfortunately, from what I get in your earlier conversation is that our representatives, Nigeria representatives, are not communicating that enough, even though they are trying their best. How would you advise we go about getting this out in a proper manner that will be attractive to the foreign investors who want to come into Nigeria, to make them know that Nigeria has been properly reformed, to the extent that just last week we were removed from the FATF grade list for money laundering and other insecurity funding issues recently. So how do you advise that we communicate our message so that it can sound clearly and well articulated for foreign investors?
Well, the bottom line, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with this, including policymakers, is that a nation, when you're talking about attracting foreign investment, a nation has to be viewed as a product, just like a product on the supermarket shelf or a product in the Apple Store, right? So you have to decide as a government what's our advantage? What is it that we offer that others don't? That we offer better, or a better way? Maybe there's more than one thing, but we have to decide what it is we're selling. What is the 1, 2, 3 thing? What's the branding we're putting on Nigeria? What is it that's going to make the rest of the world, investors, pay attention, number one, and two, actually want to commit? And what's going to seal the deal for us, right? So you have to look at it as a sales project, as a marketing project. You have to realize that you're selling a story. Doesn't mean, because it's a story, doesn't mean it's not true. But you're telling a story about your country, about its attractiveness, its potential, its people, its culture. Not simply about numbers. It's about a vibe. Just like here in Saudi Arabia, the vibe is entrepreneurial and positive and gung-ho. That doesn't apply everywhere. At least, doesn't apply as much in America as it used to. Hey, if that applies in Nigeria, that's going to be part of the messaging, right? So this is good old-fashioned marketing and salesmanship, but it has to be done, obviously, with 21st century technology and all the bells and whistles. But now it's a major effort. It requires a major project, a major campaign. It means a lot of people, capital involved, means a lot of people, a lot of money. And so governments say, well, that's really expensive. I just thought, well, I could just say we're more competitive and we have an educated workforce, lots of young people that would work. Well, guess what? That's what every other African country says. And so the investment manager of Nigeria blew an opportunity yesterday, not because they're a bad person or because they're incompetent. They just obviously are not equipped. It's a different skill set when you're actually selling a nation to the world, and then recognizing you're competing with your neighbors and your regional partners in some degree. So it's expensive, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time, but the potential payoffs are limitless.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, when we're completely done with this, Mr. Patrick Basham, we will be expecting you back again so we can have this conversation maybe next week, so we can have more conversation and look at other prospective areas that Nigeria can be opened up to the United States or to any other organization, most especially with the FII-9. Thank you so much for your time with us on the program this morning.
I look forward to it. It's been my great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Excellent.